Hi everybody, in this video I'll be going over the Excel 3A and 3B Office for the Web assignments. So here I've opened up the start file and I'm going to move on to step 3 in the instructions. And here we're going to start in cell C4 and we're going to do a simple division formula. Remember, with all your formulas we always start with the equal sign, and what we're going to do is to select our airport expenditures in B4, and we're going to divide that by the value in B10. Before you press enter, and your instructions explicitly say this, we need to make this an absolute cell reference. So what that means is that if you're using a Windows, make sure to hit the F4 function key on the top row of your keyboard. If you're using a Mac, I believe that's the function F4 key. If for whatever reason you don't have the function row on your keyboard, all you need to do is to put a $sign in front of the B and then in front of the 10. So your full formula should be equals B4 / $B $10. So again, this is called an absolute cell reference. And that way, when we copy this formula down, notice that if I click in any of these here, B10 stays the same. And so if we didn't make that absolute and we just left that as B10 and then we tried to copy it down, notice that we get these errors here. And that's because Excel is going to try to autofill the rows below it. So this is going to be B5 / B11, this is going to be B12, and so forth. And so it's really important that when you want one number to stay the same or constant in your formula, that you do make that an absolute cell reference. So I'm just going to fill it down to C9. With these selected, we're going to apply the % style format. And then we're also just going to do an align center. Now that we've finished steps 3 and 4, we can move on to step 5, which says to select the range A4 through B9. And now we're going to insert a chart. Because we're inserting something, that should give you an idea that we need to click your Insert tab. And then in your Charts group, there are several options. We have a Recommended Charts option, we have Column, Line, Scatter, Pie, Bar, Statistical, and Combo, and then finally your other charts. What we're going to do for this one is to just go to our pie chart. So your pie charts are circle charts. And I'm going to choose the first one underneath 2D pie. And the little screen tip it tells us is that it can display the contribution of each value to a total. Generally, pie charts are great when we have percentage values. And so let's click on that and take a look at our chart. So before we edit it, you'll notice that your pie chart is divided into what's called slices. So you can think of it like an actual pie. Each slice represents something different, and at the bottom here we have our legend or our key. And so here we can see that airport is this color, power services is this color, the convention center is this color, and so forth. And so your charts just give us a visual representation of the data without having to look at the raw numbers itself. And so just by looking at this, it's easy to see that the green, which is water usage, as well as this light purple, which is your power services, make up the most in your chart, almost 50%. By default, when you insert your chart, it's going to be pretty centered into your window that you have open. And per your instructions, this is still in step 5. We're going to drag our chart so that this upper left corner of our chart is in about A12. So I'm just going to drag it down so that the upper left corner is in the upper left corner of cell A12. And it's no longer blocking our data. For step 6, we're just going to adjust the chart title. And your instructions say to click once on the chart title and then press your Enter key. Once you press your Enter key, and this is just specific to the Excel version, the online Excel version, that's going to open up this Edit title box. So here we're going to type in Adjusted Expenditures. I'll click OK. And here's our new chart title. For step 7, we're going to go ahead and click on our chart tab. Your chart tab up here at the top, this is a contextual tab. That only appears when we have a specific object selected, in this case our chart. And so from here, we're going to look for your format group and then click your format button. This opens up your chart pane on the right side of your screen. And from here, we can format our chart a little bit further. What we're going to do, notice that right now we have format and it says chart title. If for whatever reason it is minimized like this, just click once on chart title so it's expanded. And here beneath fonts, we're going to bold this. You'll notice that change immediately in your worksheet. Then we're also going to adjust the font color. And this is going to be second column, first color, which is just the black text one. Next, for step 8, it says to select legend. So I'm going to click legend down here to expand it. I'm also just going to scroll down a tiny bit so that we can bold this. And then finally, I'm going to click Series 1. Okay, and then you'll need to scroll down a bit too to get to the end. If you want, you can also minimize the chart title and legend here, just so it's easier to see. And so with the Series 1 section open, we're going to click on this Data Labels button. So your data labels basically label each part of our pie slices. By default, it's giving us the numerical values that is associated with each of those slices. And so with the data labels open, it says to select the percentage checkbox. So I'm going to click here, and then we're going to deselect value and show leader lines. So all we want here is percentage. Once you do that, in the label position, just make sure that it does say best fit. Depending on the way that your chart was inserted, your labels might be on the inside and outside, but hopefully it's on best fit. So again, just make sure to change your label position to best fit. And then we can go ahead and close our chart task pane. For step 10, all we're going to do is to edit some data that's already entered here in our column B. So in B5, I'm going to change this to 145,26387. Once you type that in, you can press enter. You'll notice that it updates our C5. And then your chart is also going to reflect those changes as well. Okay, so that's now 15%, and you can see that as 15% here. So once you're done with that, we can go ahead and do a save as or download a copy and then upload it into MyLab. And so now let's take a look at 3B. If you take a look at this spreadsheet, notice that we have expenditures and an invitation sheet. On your expenditures sheet, if we take a look at the data right now, Our years are empty. We have a list of tourism spending, and it looks like we're going to need to calculate some percent increases. And for step 3, we're going to start by clicking in cell B3. We're going to enter an apostrophe and then type in 2022 and then press tab on your keyboard. We're going to do the same thing for 2023 here. So apostrophe 2023 and I'll press tab. Okay, and your instructions tells you that what this does is treat this as text instead of a number. And you'll also notice that although we type it here and it pops up in your formula bar, it doesn't actually appear in the cells. And so now that we have this, for step 4, we're going to use autofill. We're going to start by selecting B3 and C3. With those selected, you'll move your cursor to the bottom right corner of C3 over your autofill handle and just drag it over to F3. And that's going to bring us to step 5, where we're going to click in cell C5. And then we're going to create a formula to calculate a percentage increase. So to do that, we're going to start with your equal sign, and then in parentheses, we're going to do C4 minus B4, close parentheses, /B4. So this is a basic formula for calculating increases or even a decrease over time. It's your present year minus your previous year divided by the previous year. So again, that's C4 minus B4 over B4. Make sure that you do use your parentheses as shown here, and then we'll press enter. So let's click back in C5, and we're going to apply the percentage format. Once you do that, let's autofill that all the way to F5. And that's now going to bring us to step number 6. For step 6, it says to select the range A3 through F4. And now we're going to insert a line chart. To start, we'll go up to your Insert tab, and then in your Charts group, we're going to click on Line. And for this one, it says to select line with markers. So notice that under 2D line, we have 6 of them. The one in your second row, the first option is your line with markers. So it tells you that it's going to display trend over time. This could be dates or years or ordered categories. And so here's a basic line with markers. The markers are just each of these little dots here. And each of those dots reference each of the numbers here in our data. Again, just like our previous pie chart, it is blocking our data. For this one, it says to move it so that the upper left corner of our chart is positioned in cell A7. Okay, and it's visually centered in under the data above it. Okay, so just make sure that it's in A7. You're also not blocking row 23, which also has some information. For step 7, what we're going to do is to adjust our chart. So with your chart selected, make sure that you go up to your Chart tab. We're going to click the Format button. Here we're going to open up our chart title. We're also going to bold that. And then we need to click on this horizontal axis. So for our horizontal axis, we're going to bold that as well. So you'll notice that if you scroll down just a bit in your worksheet that the years are now bolded. We also need to adjust our vertical axis. So to make this easier to read in our chart pane, I'm just going to minimize my chart title and horizontal axis before I open up my vertical axis. So your vertical axis are these numbers here on the left. And so it says in your minimum box, I'm going to enter, and it looks like 6 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So my minimum is going to be 6 million. After you type in 6 million, press enter on your keyboard. And so now you'll notice that the minimum number instead of 0 is 6 million. So those are your bounds. So 6 million is the lowest, and then it goes all the way up to 12 million here. You'll also notice that we have some major units. Your major units are the increments between each of these. And so notice that it's in 1 million increments. And so here we go from 6 to 7 to 8 and so forth. Okay, before we close this out, I'm going to go ahead and bold this as well. And that way all of the data points or all of the numbers here in our vertical axis are bolded. Once you've done that, we can close out the chart pane, and then we're going to scroll down a bit until we can see cell C27. And so our formula for C27, and this is a projection. So let's say that we're expecting it to grow by 15%. What we're going to do is to start with the equal sign. We're going to click on B27. So we're going to try to calculate a 15% increase in tourism spending over our 2026 data. So to do that, that is B7 times, which is your asterisk key, and then in parentheses, that's 100% plus $B, $24 with a closed parentheses. And so what we're telling Excel right now is that we want to multiply this 2026 value of $11,486,354. If there's a 15% increase, what is it going to be? We're also making this an absolute cell reference, cell B24, because we're going to copy this formula. So I'm going to press my enter key. And now I'm going to copy this formula across. Okay, and so again, this just shows us what 15% increases year after year is going to look like. Now for step 10, it says to select B27 all the way to F27. Up in our clipboard group, we're going to copy this. We're then going to click in cell B31. And then on the bottom half of your paste arrow, we're going to paste the values only. Okay, and that way, notice that if you take a look up in your formula bar, we only have the numbers, we don't have the formulas. For step 11 now, it says to select cell B24, and we're going to type in the number 10. So I'm just typing in 10 and pressing enter. You'll notice that your C27 to F27 changed as well, and that's because we kept B24 constant, and we had changed that to 10%. So now it reflects a 10% increase. So let's do the same thing. We're going to select B27 to F27. We're going to copy, and let's just paste the values only in B32. And it also tells us that we can press our escape key on our keyboard to remove that moving dashed border. Okay, this is going to bring us to step 12 that says in the sheet tabs. So down here on the bottom left, we're going to click on invitation, and then we're going to select, and let's just zoom in a little bit, A4 to B6. From here, we're going to create a funnel chart. So let's click our Insert tab. In our Charts group, we're going to click Other Charts, and then the funnel is the one all the way at the bottom. Once you've done that, let's go ahead and move this. This one says so that the upper left corner aligns in cell D1. And I'm going to zoom out now just so we can see this. Okay, so our funnel chart is going to show us, in this case, our 3 responses. 225 were invited, 182 responded yes, and just 145 actually attended. For step 13, let's go up to our chart tab on the top. And then now in the labels group, instead of opening up our format, in your labels group, we'll click on chart title. And then we can click on edit chart title. Okay, and so this is the same thing that would appear if we had pressed enter after selecting the chart title here. It's just one more place where you can edit the title. Okay, so once you've changed that to promotional event, and I'm going to double click this because I had misspelled it. So if for whatever reason you misspell something in the title, just double click. That's either going to open up this pane here in the middle or on the left. On the right side. So I'm going to type in promotional with the correct spelling, and then I'll close it out. And it doesn't want to take my correct spelling there. So now we have promotional, and then we can go ahead, create a copy, download a copy, and then upload this into my lab.